Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today I'm going to be taking a look at an interview that was posted on Games Radar. Now, this interview is titled Final Fantasy XIV's lead battle content designer on returning to series' first MMO for a new raid difficulty in his Dream of League of Legends collaboration. And that not only is a lot of words, but a very wild way to end the title of the interview. So for those who don't know, this is actually an interview with none other than Mr. Ozma himself. For those of you newer to the game, Mr. Ozma gets his name because, well, he was the lead battle designer for the Ozma fight back in the Weeping City of Mach, which notoriously caused tons and tons of issues, so much so that the community team had to post a comment from the devs on the forums saying they weren't going to nerf the raid. Everyone on the forums, there was a bunch of posts like, please nerf Weeping City, it's such a problem on the week one, and they were just like, no. So, yeah, he has quite the reputation when it comes to being a content designer. And yes, he is the lead battle content designer at this moment. So it's just an interview that goes through a whole bunch of stuff about the stuff they've developed. A lot of it regarding the Alliance raid in particular, which makes sense given Ozma's track record, but also some comments on some other things. As you can tell, the title lets you know a little bit about something that's coming. So, combat has been a welcome shot of consistency in 14 Dawn Trails expansion so far. While the story and job balance land unevenly among Eorzea's many denizens, the challenge found in team-based bouts is often a point of praise. I would agree with that. I'd say we've had 3 of the best extreme trials that we've had in recent times. Barbaricha, really, in the past few years, is the only one that I feel like excels a lot of the ones we're getting now. And Arcadian, while of course there's a discussion about the final fight having too lax of a DPS check, has overall been fun, and I enjoyed re-clearing it. Fru, also on the easier side, closer to the T-ish difficulty, Epic of Alexander, but also being widely enjoyed by a lot of people. And of course is getting a lot more people into Ultimate so they can go back and do the more challenging ones. So I'd say it's been pretty good so far. Now, we're not going to get into anything more than that. Obviously, I could rattle on a whole bunch of stuff, but let's move on. The initial content launch was our first taste with dungeons, trials, and combat thrilling throughout. Little has changed regarding layout. Dungeons are still running between mini-bads before fighting the big bad, but the mechanics of each encounter demand greater attention for that sweet duty complete. Yeah, I mean, we've seen that with Deadborough. Even the most recent dungeon, I know a bunch of people getting caught off guard by the last boss on the halfway point mechanic with the donut AoE, with the donut arena, I should say. Not to let a good thing slip, for the first part of Final Fantasy XIV's Arcadian raid series, landed offering equal challenge with some corners of the community, ranking the slew of encounters among the MMO's best. You won't find the Heavensward people saying that. But yeah, no, Arcadian definitely landed well with a lot of people. There are still challenges ahead. Most of the content in 14 Dawn Trails roadmap offers something to someone, though a longer wait between patches means mid-core content for non-raiders could land close to a year after the MMO's latest expansion launch. If you do raid, though, we got another helping of what Dawn Trail has done best so far, combat. I'm glad they mentioned that the mid-core stuff is, probably still a ways away. Echoes of Vana'diel is this expansion's Alliance raid, sending 24 Warriors of Light into a raid that brings plenty of Final Fantasy's first MMO into its latest. Offered the chance to ask lead battle content designer Masaki Nakagawa some questions before launch. That's Mr. Ozma. We delved into everything from balancing difficulty to League of Legends. Still wild reading that. So, why did you decide on the 11 crossover? Around the end of 2022, we were deciding what would be the theme of the 7.x Alliance raid series. We had various ideas, and one of them was Return to Vana'diel, named pending. Well, it's not pending anymore, Echoes of Vana'diel, which was based on Final Fantasy XI. We adopted this idea for the following reasons. 1. Final Fantasy XI was celebrating its 20th anniversary. 2. Many of the 14 team were avid 11 fans. 3. There were many former 11 developers on the 14 team. 4. The Final Fantasy XI team belonged to the same creative studio, making it easy to collaborate. And 5. Many 14 players are also avid 11 fans. All the reasons any of us could have guessed. In addition, the timing was just right. They made plenty of ingredients to create something enjoyable. It's lovely to see Prish again, but how do you balance crafting something narratively that 11 fans recognize without leaving those unfamiliar feeling out of the loop? Did you take any learnings from Nier or the Tactics Alliance raids? I like the little tail point on that question. Yeah, this was weird because technically the story doesn't require knowing anything about all the tiny references that people like me will point out, but you do feel like you're missing something still. To some capacity. You don't know why anyone who played 11 is, weirded out at seeing Prish as her appearance or is looking forward to her having her vanilla appearance. You don't understand why Galul Jajaz or the Memulja as a whole are such a big thing with 11 players. You don't know about Juno, the Boyata tree, even the riddle that's sticking out of the sword in Fafnir's lair, the dragon Aerie, as you will. But the story still largely makes sense. We were extremely careful to not leave players who are unfamiliar with 11 out of the loop. Our main goal was not recreating 11, but the fundamental idea of creating content all players can enjoy. Yeah, I've seen some people really upset that they didn't just straight up put us on the story track of one of the 11 expansions or multiple of the 11 expansions, as opposed to making something that actually, it just ties into 14. It's just a Final Fantasy 14 story, and 11 is a lot of the settings that are used in place. Many of the team members working on Echoes of Vana'diel have strong feelings for 11, and I knew they would be keen to recreate the wondrous experiences from back then. As a side note, I'm a big fan of 11 myself. I got really into the game in my 20s to the point where I was forgetting to eat and sleep. I played well over 1,000 hours. Oh, man. You know, Final Fantasy 11 caught a huge amount of flack in the news, actually. When Pandemonium Warden, one of the most major and most notable bosses of all time, a group had spent 20 hours fighting it, and then failed. They just gave up due to mental and physical exhaustion. And Square caught a lot of flack because when you log into 11, it reminds you that you shouldn't neglect like life and friends and family to play the game. And yet you read that, and that's exactly how it was going for most of us. Exactly what he just said. Having that overwhelming enthusiasm can be a wonderful thing in content creation, but had that enthusiasm taken a wrong turn, our objective may have been focused more on recreating 11 rather than designing something that was entertaining and fun. With the former, our development would have progressed based on how faithfully we could recreate the world of 11, in which case the developers who are unfamiliar with 11 wouldn't be able to share their input. Fair, hadn't thought about that. A situation like that can never result in good content. Well, you say that, but there's some people who are so committed to the idea of consuming 11 again that I'd say it would just hit with less people. You know what I mean? Like there are people who want nothing more than 14 to just be 11 again at some point. You see it all the time. It's wild. So I agree that for everyone it wouldn't have been as good, but you know, there's always going to be that subset. That's why early on in development, I repeatedly reminded our team members of the direction we were taking with the raid series. Spent a lot of time reminding them and even went as far as writing a lengthy email to make sure we were all on the same page. Echoes of Vana'diel will respect and cherish the assets and memories of Final Fantasy XI. With that said, recreating 11 is not our top priority, but rather making use of 11's assets to the fullest to create something in the current world of 14 that we can be proud of. Please don't be afraid of making changes to Final Fantasy XI assets and boldly change things around. That's the gist of what I told them. Fair and a good assessment. I mean, even just seeing some of the 11 looking models do things that you like, seeing Fafnir fly around and be so mobile and jump around, like they're still very 11-esque in terms of like, sorry for the random cut in the video, my fire alarm went off. Only beeped a few times, but it scared the crap out of me. Hopefully I don't have to do another cut in the video. If I do, you'll know why. So, what was I even just saying before? I was talking about Fafnir and the animations, and Fafnir's animations are very similar to 11's, but faster, so in 14, I don't know, let's just move on. The whole fire alarm thing threw off. Whatever point I was about to make after reading that little quote, it's completely gone for me now. We even had developers constantly chiming in with new ideas. One such example came up when we were creating the scenery for Fafnir's lair, the Boyata Tree. Well, actually, his lair is the Dragon's Eyrie, and it's in the Boyata Tree. Team members' proposal was something along the lines of Final Fantasy XI's Boyata Tree is masterfully designed within the constraints of over 20 years ago, but may be lacking in detail to fit the world of 14. Yeah, it looks beautiful in 14, but it looks nothing like the Final Fantasy XI equivalent. For our depiction of the Boyata Tree, I'd like to reference this concept artwork that I found from the early days. That's actually a good idea, because I think a lot of people aren't going to know about that concept art, or so few people would know about it, that it just looks like it's just kind of 14ified in some capacity. So that's nice. I'd actually like to see that artwork. The artwork is quite different from the actual tree, but I believe we could recreate it in 14's current graphical environment. I want to see that artwork. Another suggestion, having the sword Riddle placed in Fafnir's lair was suggested by the scenery staff as fan service to our 11 players. These sorts of positive enhancements were being improvised left and right. Yeah, if you didn't notice, you can see a sword in the back. I have it explained in my Fafnir video, but that sword is it was Fafnir's most sought after drop that he could have. Everyone was highly motivated and enjoying their work. I vividly remember there was no doubt in my mind we were going to have something great. The 11 team graciously accepted our various suggestions and helped us make them happen. And thus, we were able to create great content together. He keeps saying the 11 team, but that's like 6 people now, I'm pretty sure. Like most of them, I guess we don't know, because after Voracious Resurgence was done, we were told that a lot of the 11 team were effectively going to be allowed to go work on other projects. like they were going to be able, instead of like just like being stuck working on a PlayStation 2 game and just knowing how to do PlayStation 2 dev kits, they were specifically given the opportunity to go to other teams and get acclimated with more modern hardware and software and stuff like that, and develop more modern games, and maybe come back to the 11 team with new ideas. So I wonder what they're saying about like what reference is this to the 11 team? Is it just people who worked on 11 and they're considering them the 11 team? Is it the active team, which again can't be too large of a force at this moment? I don't know. A lot of fans put the Arcadians light heavyweight tier among 14's best combat content. How does it make you feel going into the new Alliance series? I mean, I guess you could. I don't know that I would compare. In fact, he even says that. I was thinking that the 7.1 Alliance raid was more likely to be compared to Myths of the Realm than the Arcadian. Yeah, that's because most of us do compare it differently. That's kind of a weird segue, because I don't think anyone who's developing the 24-man doesn't look to the 8-man. Especially not because, you know, the 8-man comes with the Savage difficulty. So that's kind of a... I wouldn't have taken that approach. Whenever we create content, we aim to go above and beyond our previous efforts. This is an essential part of developing and operating a subscription-based online game, and a natural responsibility for a lead battle content designer. So whenever I create content, I always try to offer at least a slightly new experience. Yeah, I'd say we got that with Echoes of Vana'diel. There were two major new challenges with the first Echoes of Vana'diel Alliance raid. First challenge was the battle against the Archangels, the third boss battle of the raid. Its unique battle consisting of 5 different bosses, and in conventional 14 multi-boss battles, different bosses appear one after the other and deliver attacks in turn, like in the Singularity Reactor. Not exactly, but I like the comparison. This time, we instead had all 5 bosses challenge the Alliance immediately, so that, well, I mean, 2 of them teleport away, so I get what you mean, but still. What's it called? So the players could take part in a hectic battle right away. We did this as an homage to the original version of the battle in 11, known as Divine Might, and because we thought we could surprise those who were unfamiliar with 11 and excite them with this new experience. And I think that largely landed. I've seen a lot of people specifically praise the Archangels and ask for more fights that have lots of bosses like that are present. Even if, obviously, it's not a super high difficulty, but let's just say this. I know a lot of people are hoping Chaotic does well, because Chaotic Divine Might would be interesting, to say the least. However, creating such a unique battle was a daunting task, and therefore assigned to one of our veteran battle content designers. He is a talented member of the team who worked previously on AlphaScape V3, that is the first Omega battle, the Beetle Omega, and the FFXIV battle, which does not get enough credit. I know a lot of people like to think of Ozma when they think of the Weeping City, or even they think of the Megadeath that comes from the second boss. But no, FFXIV is actually a pretty well put together fight. The splitting of the alliances, having to break the webs on the bottom while dealing with the orbs up top, while there's the constant raid. It's actually one of the most balanced alliance raid encounters I think we've ever had, and definitely deserves a good amount of praise. I believe he lived up to the expectations placed on him and made a splendid boss fight. I think so as well. The second challenge was the areas. While most alliance raids consist of 3 different areas or phases, do they? Kind of, I guess. I never really thought of them that way. We split the phases into 4 with a completely unique area for each. Our thinking was, as this is a story based on Final Fantasy XI, that we should work to ensure the bosses appear in their appropriate places. Good idea. Naturally, this would result in expending more resources compared to a typical Alliance raid. However, by using Juno as both the settings of the first phase and the explorable area, we were able to split the workload evenly between the event and content teams. So the event teams take care of things like, I guess would that mean they take care of things like the Pandemonium entrance, which would mean they also technically worked on the Eric Tony battle arena. It's not a bad way of doing things. It's a nice way to double up on the asset usage and split the work between the teams. That's actually kind of nice. This allowed us to achieve consistency as one large piece of content, including flow of associated quests, and to make the raid extravagant while keeping our development resources in check. Nice little insight into that. Dawn Trail has seen fans talking about the difficulty and challenge of the expansion's battle content, with most really enjoying what they've seen so far. How does Echoes of Vana'diel compare to what we've seen so far in that regard? So this one's an interesting bit. Sorry. I'm all of a sudden very congested, and I don't know why. Before we started working on Echoes of Vana'diel, we looked into the clear and failure rates of previous Alliance raids. Based on that data, we discussed our goals for its battle content among core members of the team, including producer and director Yoshida. As many players had noted in their feedback, the statistics showed that Myths of the Realm was easier and less engaging than previous Alliance raids. Correct. After much discussion, we concluded that Echoes of Vana'diel would be harder than Myths. I think it's only barely harder than Myths. And the main thing is the bosses still die before they... Well, everyone except Shadow Lord, I'd say, dies before they can do anything too crazy. Like, for example, most weeks I fight Prish, but she never really gets to do a combo attack. Maybe she gets to do one combo attack where she'll do, like, you know, the wait for it. She'll do, like, the expanding circle AoE with the banish orbs, or she'll get to do the knockback with the, what's the other mechanic that happens there? The like, circle, the, like, exocircles that travel outward from the base point. But she only really gets to do one of them, and which one she does is, you know, random. So while I think you get to see everything that a boss does, you don't get to those combo attacks that make for the higher difficulty very much in at least that. I'd say Fafnir still is okay. I think the wind phase is largely the thing that gets people, if not knowing where the fire circle begins and ends when you need to exit for the impact that comes from the ground. So there's a couple of things, but because the attacks are also semi-random, which is clearly a reference to 11, it's not really that much harder. Again, Shadow Lord is the only fight that sometimes stretches on long enough to do all of his mechanics, and probably is the best representation of, I guess, the increase, I suppose. But all the same, we concluded Echoes of Vana'diel would be harder than Myths and more similar to the Shadows of Maka Return to Evilies. It is nowhere close to those. Our expectations were that Echoes would feel quite challenging in the early days, but as time goes on, players would gradually get used to the mechanics and feel comfortable enough to farm it. Yeah. More specifically, we decided the first Echoes raid would feature a difficulty similar to the Lighthouse. I don't agree with that at all. I think it's definitely easier than Lighthouse. Like, even just looking at MathBot, the number one thing that determines if an Alliance raid is actually difficult comes down to how many mechanics ask you to do two things at once. So MathBot asking you to do the proximity AoE in the center, dodge the dive bomb while spreading for AoEs, and also needing to avoid the electric pulses all at the same time, definitely feels like it's the peak of that. And I don't think anything in Myths of the Realm comes even close to that. And that's just one boss. I mean, that's not factoring in some of the other things that happen in Lighthouse that definitely prove to be a higher difficulty than what we have here. And I don't think that's just us being better players from Stormblood. I do genuinely think if you look at the mechanics objectively, they don't really reach that in Echoes of Vana'diel at all. Juno, the first walk, we feel he successfully nailed the target difficulty and are glad to see many players praise it. I do like it. I just don't agree with the assessment of comparing it to Lighthouse. However, we also understand that every player has different perceptions of difficulty. Yes, it's to players like me. To avoid any misunderstandings, I'd like to mention that there were many players who normally challenge extreme trials or harder that felt Echoes of Vana'diel was too easy, of course. I'm aware of or even understand the requests for difficult alliance raids, such as the notorious Weeping City of Mach and the Orbone Monastery. But compared to when those alliance raids were released, players have tremendously improved. No, the players you were just talking about have tremendously improved. The average, I would not say has improved. I'd say that with clearer markers, there's less mystery about things. But man, listen, I've seen some things. That's all I'm saying. Not every player has been playing this game for ages. Not every player has improved because not every player has been playing long enough to improve. That's what I'm saying. And people who are newer from Shadowbringers and Walker, like, they've played, but they're not necessarily the people who have put in time, like, since Heaven's Ward, since Stormblood even, since those are the two expansions that they just listed right there. It's just not the same. You can't really weigh both the same. So I don't think it has actually improved that much. Yeah, it happened again. You'll have seen me cut my sentence off because I don't even remember what I was saying again. So just finish the thing here. Implementing such a battle would result in an alliance raid that's too difficult for casual players to enjoy. He's probably right, but doesn't mean I can't wish for the old times occasionally, a little bit. So for those seeking a harder challenge, we are looking to answer the requests in the Chaotic Alliance raid, which I will be doing on Alarm Clock. We hope you'll give it a try and let us know what you think. All in all, I believe that we achieved an exquisite difficulty for the first Alliance raid of Echoes of Vana'diel, but even so, we certainly aren't 100% satisfied, and will aim even higher in the second part and beyond. So we hope you'll continue to look forward to what we have in store. Yeah, a big thing with Myths of the Realm was that I felt like it got worse as time went on, so I really hope that doesn't happen here. This was a good start, but there's definitely room for improvement. I feel like they really need to make sure that bosses get to do their like any sort of combo attack that they have. They really need to get to do earlier. Fafnir, again, is probably the one that does it best, him and Shadow Lord, whereas the Archangels, basically, as soon as all 5 of them are on the arena, it's like it almost immediately ends. The last combo you generally see in most groups now is when all 5 of them are in the room. So you have the Archangel GK doing his like DRS style combo into the Cross Reaver, into silencing the Taru. I almost never see the actual AoE Cross Reaver. Heck, even the Arrogance AoE sometimes I don't see on the weekly anymore. The repeat AoE that Archangel EV does right after that combo attack I just mentioned. So I really think they need to get to the combo attacks at a better pace. And that's like the one thing they could probably achieve better. Let them get to their combo attacks starting like on average by like the 40 to 50% of the boss HP mark. That's I think the one improvement they still need to make. What would your Dream 14 collaboration be? This is where the title is. So I've already read through this section because there's no way I was waiting to read it here. I personally would love to do a crossover with 7 Remake, though it's being developed by a separate team. Even if it were to happen, I imagine it would have to take place after the trilogy is complete. But it's exciting to think about designing crossover content with various 7 characters and bosses. That being said, I absolutely do not want to interfere with the 7 development's team right now, so I'd like to perhaps bring it up with them after when an appropriate opportunity arises. We've heard that before. We heard that back when Remake was still being made, so it's not surprising all these years later that that's still the case. As for other companies' titles, I personally love League of Legends and have been playing the game for a long time, so a crossover with them would be a dream come true. It would be great fun if Aatrox and Aurelion Sol. Man, that says a lot about a person when they specifically go for Aatrox and Aurelion Sol as their reference. Although I guess it depends. Does he mean original Aurelion Sol? Does he mean the updated Aurelion Sol? I guess you could also ask which version of Aatrox. Would it be the pre-rework Aatrox? Would it be post-rework Aatrox? Depends. Each one of them says something different about a League of Legends player. I was a support, so I played a lot of Karma, both pre- and post-workout. So I guess that says a lot about me. I was also a post-Taric rework kind of person. If a Riot Games representative is reading this, it would be... Oh, and also put a 14 character into League of Legends. That would be something. Has League ever done another games character? I don't think they have. I don't think Wild Rift has either. I don't know. It's been a while. If a Riot Games representative is reading this, it would be an honor if I could speak with you. That would be something wild. Dude, Ardbird. No, they would take Xenos, wouldn't they? I'm willing to bet the Riot team would look at the cast and take Xenos, but I think the 14 team would try to put forth Ishtola. Like, let's be real, that's probably what they'd do. I enjoyed Yoshida-san recently finding out that fans have been recreating him in Monster Hunter Wilds. They've been recreating him in everything for years. I remember, like, what was it, Neo, Wilds, I think Tekken. He's been in, like, everything. Would you like to see the 14 team do a Monster Hunter Wilds on a raid or something else? Team up with Monster Hunter Wilds. There are many fans of the Monster Hunter series within the 14 team, and I am one of them. If we were given the opportunity to do a crossover, we would love to do it, but with the release of Wilds almost upon us, we will do our best to enjoy the game first. The game designer who handled the battle content for our crossover with Monster Hunter World has been really motivated even after they finished working on the crossover, saying that if there were a next time, they would do this and that. So if we can do a crossover, I'm sure we could create... Bro, I'm telling you there's a Monster Hunter Wilds collaboration. I'm willing to bet he knows they're already doing it, because you can't convince me they haven't already actually spoken about it. Like Yoshida and the director of Monster Hunter. Like, I bet this time next year, okay, not even this time next year, whenever FanFest ends up being, I bet we get a Monster Hunter collaboration announcement at FanFest. I'm calling it. There's no way it doesn't happen. There's just no way it doesn't happen. There's just, everyone on the team wants to make it. The Monster Hunter team wants to do it. Just do it. Like, it was the one, like, third-party crossover I was like, okay, you did a good job with this one. It's like all the other ones I'm not crazy about, but that one I really like. So, do it. Anyway, that's going to be a wrap. That's going to be a wrap for that interview. Honestly, I just need to get through it before the fire alarm went off one more time. I can't even believe the fire alarm. They've been testing it for, like, weeks. And it's just like on random days or random times, boop, boop, for like twice. It just makes my eardrums pop. And then, anyway, you don't need to hear about that. So, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned for my chaotic stuff next week. I also have a Path of Exile video probably coming sometime in the next few days. I just need to find the time to record it. And between morning stream, gym, and evening stream, I don't know when that is just yet. So, anyway, I will see you all in the next video. Until then, bye-bye.